All right, guys, the Utah Jazz just did the biggest trade since basically the Darren Williams trade. It's a big one. Let's talk about it. Let's dissect it. Let's go through it. Let's talk about Rudy Gobert. It's the Hoops Nerd Show. All right, guys, so this is big. I finally get to sit down and do a reaction to this. The Utah Jazz just traded Rudy Gobert to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Before I get into like the specifics of the trade, I just want to say first, let's just talk about a little bit about Rudy Gobert and how nice of a pickup this is for the Minnesota Timberwolves, because the Timberwolves just gave the Jazz a ton of picks. Malik Beasley, I just said that I'm not going to tell you, and that's what it is. But anyways, Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, and Jared Vanderbilt. But they are getting Rudy Gobert. That is the star they were looking for. And I know some Timberwolves fans might be frustrated because of certain narratives out there about Rudy Gobert. Right now, I'm going to tell you, the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to make the playoffs next year, and they're going to be a good team. Because what Rudy Gobert does for you is he immediately makes you a top 10, if not a top 5 defense, immediately, as soon as he steps on the floor. He is great, and I believe Chris Finch. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments, but I believe Chris Finch is the coach there, and he's a good coach. He's one of those guys that I remember his name. I don't remember the names of every single coach in the NBA, but I know Finch is a good one. He's fantastic there, and he just got the best defensive player in the NBA. He is just incredible. Yes, Chris Finch. Rudy Gobert is going to change everything for them defensively, because what he does is he becomes a defense unto himself. He changes everything for you on the defensive end. Wolves fans, I know like the narrative out there about Rudy Gobert is that he's this like really tall rim protector, can't defend on the perimeter. The fact is Rudy Gobert was the best isolation defender for the Jazz on the perimeter. And that's not even taking into account what he does on at the rim. Go watch the Jazz playoff games if you're a Minnesota Timberwolves, and go tell me why anything that happened to the Jazz was Rudy Gobert's fault. That guy was covering the floor for the Jazz in so many ways, and the fact that Jazz, defensive perimeter players were so putrid, and the Jazz still managed to have a top 10 defense last year, just tells you how good Rudy Gobert is. One of the things I want you Minnesota Timberwolves fans to do is go watch Rudy Gobert's double jump. There are subtle things you will find out watching him that he is so incredible at. His ability to guard not only the first shot at the rim, but then the second shot is unmatched in this league, and no one talks about it. He's remarkable. His recovery is unbelievable. Rudy Gobert can guard out on the perimeter as good as anyone. There were times last season where the Jazz, during the regular season, they had Rudy Gobert guarding Luka Doncic, and he did a good job. Go watch that game where the Jazz won at the end during the regular season against the Dallas Mavericks and tell me that Rudy Gobert can't guard anyone on the perimeter. He's fantastic. He absolutely can. And this Timberwolves team has other guys that can defend. This Wolves team might be 4 or 5 seed at least. They're going to be really good and maybe better. If Anthony Edwards takes another leap, this team is great. And it allows Karl Anthony Towns to not have to be the defensive center point on defense. It is now Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert will cover up a lot of Karl Anthony Towns' sins. And then Anthony Edwards on offense can just be Ant-Man and just do his thing. It's going to be a really fun team. He's going to be phenomenal. And he's better than you think. And offensively, all he is efficient, because what he's going to do is put constant offensive rebounding pressure on offense for the Wolves. And he is going to be a role threat every single time. And it creates gravity. Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns are going to find out really quickly that Rudy Gobert is one of the best floor spacers in the league. Not because of the three-point shooting. Everyone talks about the three-point shooting being the thing that creates space. Rudy Gobert, when he rolls to the rim, draws everyone to him. So Anthony Edwards will get more open threes. Karl Anthony Towns will get more open threes. There's a reason that the Utah Jazz had more open threes than anyone in the league last year, and for the last 3 years. Rudy Gobert, a major part of it. All right. So Wolves fans, I hope you're excited. If you're a Wolves fans watching it, send me a like and a subscribe. I would appreciate it. But you guys are going to have fun, and I am going to personally have a blast watching the Minnesota Timberwolves with Rudy Gobert. He's going to be fantastic. Now, I just want to give my own thoughts on Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert has been one of my favorite players ever for the Jazz, right up there with John Stockton, Karl Malone, Rudy Gobert, Darren Williams. Just absolutely one of my favorites, if not like maybe my favorite. He's, for me personally, he's up there with John Stockton as my just favorite Jazz players. He's phenomenal. He changed this team. I'm going to get emotional. I better not. Anyways, I cover the Jazz for SLC. Gosh, dang it, it's happening. I covered the Jazz for SLC Dunk for years, and Rudy Gobert has been on this team for the last 8-9 years. And before Rudy Gobert, they sucked. Before Rudy Gobert, it was like Gordon Hayward's team. And Gordon Hayward was given the reins before Rudy Gobert was. And it got him a top 5 pick, which they made that became Dante Exum. Little did the Jazz know that Rudy Gobert was going to be the guy that changed everything for the Jazz. If you'll remember, the Jazz got Enes Kanter, but they had Rudy Gobert, who came on the team with Trey Burke. And everyone was excited about Trey Burke, but this guy they got at 27, who they gave cash for, Eric Allen, I think, was the guy they traded, and he was the absolute prize of that draft. And this Jazz team with Trey Burke, with Gordon Hayward, with all these different guys, did not get to the playoffs until Rudy Gobert got the starting spot. And if you'll remember, that first year they traded Enes Kanter and Rudy Gobert gets on the floor, they nearly made the playoffs. He was so franchise changing. And that was at a point when he was so young, but he was such a franchise changing player that they immediately went from like lottery team to playoff contender immediately. And then the next year, when he got the full-time starter minutes, the Jazz go to the playoffs immediately. Remember? It was unbelievable. And I believe that was the year that they go to the playoffs with Gordon Hayward and Joe Johnson. And we remember the big time shot that Joe Johnson made. But none of that happens if Rudy Gobert is not on the team. Absolutely transcendent. And so that's the thing I would tell Minnesota Timberwolves fans, is that Rudy Gobert has changed 2 eras of Jazz basketball to make them playoff contenders. 2 of them, the Gordon Hayward era and the Donovan Mitchell era. They don't go to the playoffs in either of those eras without Rudy Gobert. Flat out. And guess what? He is going to do it for you guys. It's going to be exciting. You're going to love it. It's going to be fantastic. And personally, I'm going to miss him. The other thing about Rudy Gobert is he is absolutely one of the most honest, straightforward, real, authentic guys out there. He is kind. The guy does... You want to know a little story about Rudy Gobert? Something that Jazz fans know that maybe Minnesota Timberwolves fans know? Rudy Gobert donates more money to like help with funerals in Utah than anyone out there. He covers funeral costs for so many people, internally, externally. I know personally from Rudy Gobert, there was at my day job, we have a shoe drive that we go to. And a fun story about Rudy Gobert is there was a kid that is in a very tough situation with his mom. He's this really big kid that had size like 19 feet. And we could not find shoes that really fit him because his feet are so big. We actually sent a DM to Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert immediately said, I'll help him out. Rudy Gobert donated to this kid his own shoes that he wears. He sent him multiple pairs of shoes that this kid had never... We were hoping to get like something on Amazon or something like that, some sort of cheap pair of shoes. Instead, this kid went from getting that kid with like a single mom and a special needs brother. They struggle. And Rudy Gobert sent this kid his own clothes. Literally, he didn't just send him shoes. He sent him his own shoes that he wears. He sent him all his Nike apparel that Nike sends him, his promotional apparel. So this kid got 3-4 Nike pairs of shoes, like NBA level shoes from Rudy Gobert that are customized for Rudy Gobert, plus all his clothing. We literally brought in bins and bins of clothing for this kid from Rudy Gobert. That's who Rudy Gobert is. He's an incredible guy. Absolutely one of the most genuine, kind, good guys, easy to root for you can imagine. It's fantastic. He's awesome. I love Rudy Gobert. And Minnesota fans, I'm sure you are too. Like, you're going to love him. And he's going to give everything he has to you. And I promise you, with all the turmoil from this last season with the Utah Jazz and the stuff with Donovan Mitchell and all the locker room things going on, you are going to get a guy that is absolutely going to earn a DPOY next year. He is going to change your franchise. You just got the DPOY next year. You're going to have a top 5 defense. You are going to have someone who goes out there and is absolutely going to fight and claw, and every single possession, every single play. This guy never quits. And now he's even more motivated. So watch out for Minnesota, because they just got a stud in Rudy Gobert. Now, from a Jazz standpoint, what did they get? Absolute treasure trove, and rightfully so, because Rudy Gobert is that type of player. He changes everything for your franchise. The Jazz are coming away with this, and the players to me honestly don't really matter, because I actually feel like this is a time for Utah to just absolutely bottom out and start over and clean house. They already did. They've already started it with Will Hardy. They are going with a whole new coaching staff, and now they have all the picks that are coming to them. They have 23, 25, 27, a swap in 26, and a top 5 protected in 29. All those other picks are unprotected. So these are all unprotected picks. So in 2027, if Rudy Gobert is still on the Wolves or not, or resigns or whatever, if that Wolves team gets bad for whatever reason, the Jazz will be benefiting from it. It will be amazing. This Jazz team is going to now have picks that they can make in some sort of trade. I actually personally think the Jazz need to just absolutely bottom out and do the right thing and go for a top pick in this next draft and build from there. It sounds like they're interested in Donovan Mitchell being the centerpiece, but they're not out on trading him either. And so what I'm excited about is to see what they do with Rudy Gobert, or not with Rudy Gobert, with these picks. God, I have so many thoughts and emotions going through me. I'm sad about Rudy Gobert, but I'm excited about what the Jazz get. It's crazy. So anyways, the Jazz get all these different picks. It's actual treasure trove. This was more than I even expected. Everyone was saying that the Jazz were asking for a huge haul, and they absolutely got it. Minnesota gave it to them. It's unreal. This is unbelievable. Now, the big message from this is like they get Malik Beasley, Jarrett Vanderbilt, who is a defensive wing, which was something they were looking for. But those guys aren't really, you trade Rudy Gobert for Jarrett Vanderbilt and Malik Beasley, you're going to be a lot worse, honestly. You're not like Malik Beasley's a nice shooter and he does some nice things, but he's not taking a franchise deep into the playoffs. He's like a nice player if he's like your sixth man or something like that. But it's not changing everything. It's the picks. And this is why I think the Jazz are making a lot of different they're sending a lot of messages out there that the rebuild is on. And they now have picks that can make it happen. Although these are from Minnesota, by trading Rudy Gobert, you're going to lose more games next year, just flat out, unless they can somehow make some other sort of trade for him. But to me, this was the right move for the Jazz. It really was. As painful as it is to say goodbye to Rudy Gobert, the Jazz were on a downward trajectory. The coaching situation last year was awful. They had two of their best players just really were not. It was just not going to happen again for another year. I don't know if Donovan Mitchell's even going to be on this team next year. It was just so much turmoil and so many bad things with this team happening that you could not keep it going. And the fact that they get this kind of level of picks and options with the offseason coming up, it's incredible. I'm truly excited about it. It's weird. I can go from being sad about Rudy to excited about this. And honestly, talking about Rudy makes me really sad thinking about picks. But it's incredible. And Danny Ainge made the right move. You had to do it. You couldn't come back and do the exact same thing. Now, I think there's an argument out there that maybe you build around Rudy Gobert. I don't know if Rudy Gobert on his own is someone you can really build around and be over the top. That's what's exciting for Minnesota is they have a number 1 overall pick in Anthony Edwards, who continues to get better every year. And they also have Karl Anthony Towns. They have a big 3. They really do. And it'll be fun to see how that works. For Utah, they had a big 2. And they had no draft capital. That's the other thing. The last few years, the Jazz draft capital was absolutely gone. So there was nothing out there to go out and get a star to bring to Utah. If the Jazz had like picks like this, like the Timberwolves had, and maybe you combine that with like Bojan Bogdanovic and some other, Mike Conley, maybe they go out there and bring like a superstar over to play with Mitchell and Gobert. They just didn't have it. The management before Danny Ainge did such a bad job, like the last 3 years, that there was no draft capital there. There was no, first round picks are the currency of the NBA. If you want to make a trade, you have to have first round picks to make it happen. Atlanta sends 3 first round picks to San Antonio for DeJounte Murray. The Minnesota Timberwolves send basically 5 first round picks, maybe 6, because in reality, you're also getting Walker Kessler or whatever his name is in this one, and I know that's like a late first and he's a center prospect because the Jazz needed a center, but that is what it takes to make trades to get star players. And the Minnesota Timberwolves, they paid the price to bring over Rudy Gobert, and that the Jazz just didn't have it. And so you knew that there was a ceiling with this Jazz team. They were only going to go so far. They were on a downward trajectory. They weren't going to be better next year. I mean, all these trade options for like John Collins and all these guys, they would have made the Jazz more interesting, but they wouldn't have been much better. You know, in reality, is John Collins really that much better than Bojan Bogdanovic? You get some improved rebounding and shooting, but you weren't going to go any farther than, you know, the second round at best. And so the writing was on the wall. You had to make a move, and they did it. And so the Wolves get an incredible player in Rudy Gobert. The Jazz have an absolute treasure trove. And honestly, this is the thing about this move. And I know I go from saying how good Rudy Gobert is to how big this move is. This is a good move in which both teams will win. But around 2027, 2026, if things do go bad for the, you know, and that's in 4 years. You don't know what's going to be happening in 4 years. If Rudy Gobert is tapering off, if Karl Anthony Towns has some sort of issue, if any of these sorts of things happen and the Jazz get a swap or they get unprotected picks, which they got, then they're doing the same thing that happened in Boston when Danny Ainge took those picks from Brooklyn. You know, it was the later picks that were so big. And those were the things that got them Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. I can't remember if Jaylen Brown was their own pick or not. Let me know in the comments. But that was what made them able to make those moves. And so if the Jazz are able to do both rebuild on their own, find guys in the draft that they want to go after and be bad enough to actually get them, and then you combine the fact where you're going to get picks from Minnesota, it's more rolls of the dice. More guys you can pick, and hopefully you find a guy that is a franchise-changing player again. Because this era of Jazz basketball pretty much was complete. There was no other chapter after this with this same core, and so you had to make a move. We'll see what happens with Donovan Mitchell. I actually think this might be I actually think Donovan Mitchell might be gone in a few days. We'll see. Or maybe they build around him, but I just don't see it. You know, we'll see what happens, guys. But let me know if I'm missing anything. Let me know in the comments what your favorite Rudy Gobert story is, favorite Rudy Gobert memory. Let me know in the comments, Wolves fans, if you're excited. I think you should be, because Rudy Gobert is just a franchise-altering player. He truly is. I know he's not your typical franchise player, like, you know, the Kawhi Leonards out there and the wings. And those are the guys that really get you really far. But Rudy Gobert is just as much of a franchise-altering player as any of the other top 15 players out there. He really is going to change everything for the Wolves. Great coach, great top three. I'm excited to root for the Wolves along with the Jazz. So anyways, if you're a all-star today, make sure you like and subscribe. I'm going to go hang out with my family. They're here to visit. We're going to play some games and watch some shows, and I'll get this up and probably get this up on SLC Dunk as well as an instant reaction. But let me know in the comments your thoughts, your feelings, your Rudy Gobert ideas and memories and everything. And also like and subscribe. I will talk to you next time.